Okay, hopefully this works. This is my third time to do this, so I'm gonna try to talk along as I've already written and talk about sequence and summation notation. This is chapter 8, section 1. I know I named them homework 1, 2, 3, 4 because I was just unsure where this was going at the time with online learning. But this is actually in your book, and it's chapter 8, section 1. If you'd like to look in your book at all, you can find examples and questions and things like that. All right, so let me write down a sequence. This is going to be about sequences mostly. Here's a sequence: 1, 5, 9, 13, 17, 21, 25, and, dot, 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 dot. Just keeps kind of going on forever. Okay? All right. So I want to go through and just kind of write down what you're expected to kind of know as notation. So this is A1, so that means it's the first term. A2 is the second term. A3 is the third term. A4 is the fourth term. A5 is the fifth term. A6 is the sixth term. A7 is the seventh term. And they can keep going on and on and on and on until we go to AN, which we call the nth term. Okay, that's kind of a generic for whatever, input the 13th term, whatever. Okay, so A1, the value of A1 is, it's the first term, and the value of A1 would be 1. Okay, so it's the first term, and A1 equals 1. Okay, so another example would be A7. So that's the 7th term. But A7 would equal 25. So A7, so the N is 7, the nth term, and the actual value of A7 is 25. Okay, so we're going to write that in generic. So AN is the nth term. So the 20th term, the 100th term, whatever. A100 would be the 100th term, and it would be equal to that value. Okay, so the nth term of the sequence, that's how we write it, AN. Okay, so if you're writing A3, N is 3, so that means it's the third term, so N is 3. And the value for A3 is 9, as you can see above. Okay, it gets a little tricky because you have to decide the difference between the N and the value. All right, so let's do some problems. So write the first 4 terms of this sequence. Okay. So we have AN equals 3N plus 4. Okay, and so we want to write the first 4 terms. So we want A1, A2, A3, and A4. First 4 terms. We want to find the values of each one of these. Okay, so if I want to find A1, then N is 1. So notice N is 1. So 3 times N, which is 1. So 3 times 1 plus 4, if I do the math, 3 plus 4 is 7. So my value for A1 is 7. Okay, and then if I do A2, then N is 2. So 3 times 2 plus 4, so that's 6 plus 4, which is 10. Okay, and then A3, so 3 times 3 plus 4, that's going to be 13. Okay, and then A4, last one's A4. And get the 3 times 4, because N is 4, plus 4, so 12 plus 4, that gives us 16. So I found the first 4 terms of the sequence, 7, 10, 13, and 16. A1, A2, A3, A4. Okay. So I do want to say for a second that if you were to, if they asked you to find the, let's go big, like the 100th term, in this case, you would have A100, and then that would be equals 3 times 100 plus 4. So it'll be 3 times 100, which is 300, plus 4, so 304. So the 100th term's value would be 304. Just another example. Okay, so the next types of questions are called recursion or recursive. Sometimes I say, sometimes I use both words, but sometimes I'll say mostly use the recursive formula. That's just another word for recursion formula. It's the same thing we've kind of been doing, but it's a little bit different because we're not using just in our equation. So we're going to find the first 4 terms of a sequence where A1 equals 5, so they give us the first term, and then they give us the formula AN, so N is their nth term, equals 3 times A, then they'll subscript N minus 1 plus 2. So same type of thing, we're finding the first 4 terms, so we want A1, A2, A3, A4, okay, we already have A1, A1 is going to be 5, check, okay? So watch carefully, I'm going to line it up with the equation. So if I want to find A2, put A2, so what is N? N is 2, okay, so equals 3, and then we've got A, and then we put 2 for N, so 2 minus 1 plus 2, okay, so A2 equals 3, and we're going to do the math here. 2 minus 1 is, everybody say it together, 1, so A1 plus 2. Do I have the value for A1? Well, yes, I do, because they gave it to me. Okay, so the value for A1 is 5. All right, so I'm going to do A2 equals 3 times 5 plus 2. And that gives you 15 plus 2, which is 17. Okay, so a little bit different than before because we're not plugging in the N value, we're plugging in what they're asking us to plug in. Okay, so we're going to do this again. We're going to do AN, I'm going to write the equation again, 3 AN minus 1 plus 2. So I'm going to do A3, that's the third term. Okay, so N is 3 here, so third term. So 3A, and that's going to be 3 minus 1 plus 2. A3, so the third term equals 3 times 3 minus 1 is 2. A2. So do I know the value of A2? I do. It is 17. So 3 times 17 plus 2. That's going to give you 153. 53. Okay. So it's a little bit different than before. So notice I plugged in 5 into that one. I plugged into 17 into that one. So what do you think I'm going to plug into the next one? Well, probably 53 if you follow the pattern. Okay, so follow the pattern. So I'm going to do A4. Sorry, A4 is 3 times A4 minus 1 plus 2. So A4 equals 3 times A3, which is the third term. 4 minus 1 is 3, plus 2. So A, fourth term, equals 3 times the third term, plus 2. So that's going to give me 159 plus 2, so 161. So 161. So I found first 4 terms, 5, 17, 53, 161. So if I wanted to find the 5th term, guess what? I'm going to plug in the 4th term. If I want to plug in the 6th term, I'm going to plug in the 5th term. So see how that works? So I found the 2nd term, I plugged in the 1st term. So that's what's called recursive, because it keeps on using the one before it. Okay, so the next thing I kind of want to tell you about is called a factorial. It's not really something like an equation they use here or anything, but it is like a notation that they use, and it looks like an exclamation mark. We may have gone over this in Algebra 2, but I want to make sure that I've gone over it again. So it looks like an exclamation mark, and here is the kind of the equation for it. So it's n times n minus 1 times n minus 2, and then you just keep going until it ends. So for example, if I do 6 factorial, I'm going to do 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, and that's going to give me 720. Okay, if I did 4 factorial, I'm going to do 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which would be 12 times 2, which is 24. Okay, so there is um, a button in your calculator. Hold on, I'll tell you about it in just a second. So if I were to do 10 factorial divided by 8 factorial, I'll do 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And then I'll do 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And look, those cross out. Cancel, 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 cancel. And I'm just left with 10 times 9, which would be 90. And that would be your answer. Okay. Again, there is a button in your calculator. If you go to math, let me get my calculator and make sure. So if you go to math and scroll over, go to math and scroll over to PROB, it's probability, and go down to the fourth one, that's the exclamation mark. So you don't have to actually do all this math. I just wanted to show you, in case you ever see it again, you'll actually know how to do it. But math, scroll over, fourth one, that's what it's called. It's called a factorial, okay? There were some problems with some factorials, so I just wanted you to know how to do it in your calculator. Okay, so the next thing we're going to learn is the summation notation, which some of you may have seen before, probably in like maybe standardized test. I'm sure we did it maybe in Algebra 2, I don't know. I'm sure you've seen this before somewhere. But summation notation, write this out. Okay, it looks like this. It's like a big, looks kind of like an E. It's an epsilon. You're going to be in a fraternity or sorority. You're going to learn all your Greek letters. Okay, and so it has a number on the top and a number on the bottom. The one on the bottom is, and then it has a formula. So the number on the bottom is your start or your lower end. That's where you start. And the one on the top is your upper end, or it's where you end all the numbers. Okay, and then a to the I, that's your formula. So in this case, if I make I equal 1, let's say, instead of the number sign, put 1. Okay, so it'll be A1, and then it's summation, remember, so plus A2, plus A3, plus all the way to AN, because I would end at the nth value. Okay? So that's what summation notation looks like. Remember, you're just taking the sum of all of these numbers. So here's an example. I'll do a couple of examples. Okay, so here I've got I squared plus 1 is my equation. I'm going to plug the numbers in. And I'm going to start with 1, and I'm going to end at 6. So I'm literally going to do all of this equation for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So I've got 1 squared plus 1, 2 squared plus 1, 3 squared plus 1, 4 squared plus 1. And I'm going to add all these together because it's summation. So I'm adding them all together. Okay, so I just plugged in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, start at 1, end at 6. If it said 10, I would keep going. 7 squared plus 1, 8 squared plus 1, 9 squared plus 1, 10 squared plus 1. All right. So then I'm going to add them all together. So that gives me 1 squared plus 1 is 2. And I got 5. I got 10. I got 17, 26, and then 30, not 32, 37. Okay, so if I add them all up, I get 97. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do one more just because there was one that looked kind of tricky. At least it looked tricky to me. Okay, so here is the summation. There is no letter to plug anything into, so that's where it gets tricky. All right, I want you to go do something 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So 4 plus 4. Sorry, I want you to do it 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're going to write 4 5 times. There's nothing you're plugging a number into. So you're literally just writing the number over again 5 times. If it wanted to do 10, you do it 10 times. So 4 times 5 is 20. So that would be your answer there. Just didn't want you to be tricked by this little easy one because it's a little confusing. At least I thought it was. Maybe you don't. Okay, there is a button in your calculator for summation. You might have to Google it. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is, and I don't want to make this longer than necessary. So if you can't find it, let me know. If you Google summation in calculator TI-84 or whatever calculator you have, it'll show you right where the button is, and you can use your calculator. If you want to check yourself or make sure you're getting these numbers correct. Sometimes they may make you expand them, so you may not be able to use a calculator. You may have to expand it, but you could always check yourself. And expanding means, like in the first problem, we have 2 plus 5 plus 10 plus 17 plus 26 plus 37. Okay, so again, let me know if you need some help on finding that in the calculator. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is kind of go backwards and write from the expanded form of a summation. We're going to write the summation equation. Okay, so this is the example. 1 to the 4th plus 2 to the 4th plus 3 to the 4th plus 4 to the 4th plus 12 to the 4th. That's pretty easy one. So we're going to write summation notation for the sequence above. Okay, so I got the big E. Where did it start? Where did it end? And what is our equation? So it started at 1, so you can see there, and it ends. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, dot 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 dot, and it ends at the number 12. So it ends at 12 like that. And then the equation that we would plug each one of these i's, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like would be I to the 4th power, and every time we would plug in 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You get the point. So that would be your summation notation. And if I want to check myself, I just do it and look. It looks exactly the same as the one above, and so then I know I did it correctly. Okay, so this homework is due Wednesday night at midnight. Please, please, please don't wait until the night of, because I don't answer my questions at 10 p.m. Or answer my emails. So do the night before in case you have any questions. You also have an assignment due Thursday night and Friday night. I will put those videos and homeworks out by tomorrow morning. I'll get both of the videos and homeworks by tomorrow morning, so you can do them early if you would like to. So just today's out today. Thursday and Fridays will be out tomorrow. I love you guys. We will Zoom next week. Let me know if you have any questions.